Here's exactly what is changing in the real estate photography industry in 2025. I've been shooting real estate for the last 10 years, and over that time, or really more than 10 years now, I've seen a lot of changes, a lot of new things that became popular and went away. And so this video is me helping you stay on trend with what's going on in 2025. So first thing that I've noticed is video is becoming a lot more popular. Finally, right? And the reason for that is because more and more real estate agents are leveraging social media, especially short form, like vertical oriented video, meaning they need someone to create those videos for them. This has been a trend in like general marketing for 4 or 5 years now, at least. But real estate agents are typically a little slower to adopt those trends, and at least in a broad way. You always have a few agents that are sort of ahead of things marketing wise. And so it's become more mainstream to do that. More and more agents are ordering video, getting on social media. And what that means for us is higher average order value, right? Because instead of just ordering, photos, maybe it's drone stuff, maybe a 3D tour, they're also wanting video services for those listings. And a lot of times it can be multiple videos for one listing, right? They might have a video of the actual listing, and then they might make some more branding oriented videos while they're there that really are still listing media, but it's just them talking and something they can post as a different piece of content on their social media. So that's the first trend change that I've noticed. The second one is AI editing. More and more stuff is coming out for AI object removal, better sky replacements, different things like that. Granted, that's not something most of us, at least the people that I work with as real estate photographers, do, because I'm a big fan of outsourcing editing. But what it's resulting in is editing costs being driven down, and there's some cool fully AI editors that are starting to become more usable now. And so I see that as a big trend change in 2025. It's super positive for us as real estate media business owners because it drives down our editing cost, because the people that are doing editing are going to have to spend less time doing those things. So that's the second one. Number 3 is systems have just become really, really good. There's been more development money put into building stuff and tools for real estate photographers. So we use Spiro, and it's a great software for real estate photographers, and stuff like that is becoming more mainstream among real estate photographers. It's still pretty crazy to me how many real estate photographers don't have an all-in-one business management system, and they sort of invoice separately and deliver via Google Drive or whatever, but there's a lot of good systems. So as a real estate photographer, it's a really good idea to set one of those up. But the main reason I wanted to make this video is because while I think trends are catchy and you clicked on this video because you're like, what's changing? The most important thing that I'm noticing is that really not a lot has changed over the last 10 years. It's remained the same, and I think that's a good thing. I personally at least prefer a business that's consistent and that creates cash flow for me and that I can incrementally work to build. And so, like I said, while changes and trends are like clickbaity and a lot of people want to make videos on them because they get people to click, the reality is not a lot has changed. There's the same basic core elements that worked 10 years ago work today with some slight changes. And so I'm gonna run through those because I think those are the things that are really gonna make you money as a real estate photographer in 2025. And so the first one is we have a very simple industry, right? It's not a complicated thing. We know exactly who our clients are, right? They're realtors, they're builders, they're home stagers, they're anybody that needs to showcase a physical space, right? So stagers, they have their staging in the space. They want to show it. Builders, they built the space. Realtors, they're selling the space. And so because of that, it's a very, very simple industry. And that means that it's easy to build a business in, at least relatively. We're not trying to figure out who our clients are. Speaking of our clients, the next thing that's remained the same is it's pretty dang easy to get clients as a real estate photographer. Again, relatively easy compared to other industries. We know exactly who they are, and because they are salespeople, they're pretty easy to find. They have Instagram accounts, they're advertising, they work in brokerages that you literally can just walk in the front door of or go to the website and see a full list of the teams there. That's such an asset. And anybody who's been in another business, if this isn't your first business, you really know what I'm talking about there, because it is, frankly, it sucks trying to find clients when you're like, well, who are your clients? And you're like, I don't know. And so in real estate media, we know exactly who our clients are, and they're easy to get because they're easy to find, so we can simply reach out and offer them our services. I have videos talking about that specifically, but to me, that's one of the most powerful things about this industry. It makes it easier to grow a business. You see a lot of real estate photographers that are successful, and then a lot of other types of photographers that aren't, because they're either generalist and they shoot a little bit of everything, or even if they pick one thing, it's like they pick wedding photographers, Well, how do you find clients as a wedding photographer? You can do it. There's plenty of successful wedding photographers, but it's a lot harder than real estate agents because you can't know who your clients are. Like, they're only people that are recently or about to get engaged and married, right? And that's like a small group of people in a short window of time, where real estate agents are like blasting out there that they are that. So it's just easier, right? I'm not saying wedding photography is the worst thing. It's probably the second best niche in my opinion. But everything else is just harder to find clients, which is super good. The third thing, a trend that's remained consistent is the media is so easy to create. That's why, my business, Norman and Young, for example, we can hire somebody that has no camera experience, and within 2 weeks, they know how to work for us, right? They can shoot photos, videos, and 3D tours, at least most of those things usually. They know exactly all of our processes as a company, and they're out there, going from no experience, and then 2 weeks later, they're shooting 3 or 4 houses a day for us. And so there is still a learning curve, and there's still things you have to learn, but it's not like you have to become some like world-renowned photographer with a ton of skills and know everything about cameras and gear and everything like that. We always joke at Norman and Young that like we don't really know what aperture is. We just know it's 9, right? Because we shoot all of our photos on an aperture of 9, and that's making a joke out of it. Obviously, you get to know your camera, and part of growing a photo business, you'll just pick up stuff along the way. But it's just so funny to look back when I was first starting my business, and I knew more about cameras than I needed to, and I still knew nothing, yet I was able to grow a very successful real estate media business. So the media is very easy to make if you keep it simple and you don't, go artist on me. You can always make things more complicated, but they say simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, and really I would say simplicity is the ultimate way to make money, at least in real estate media. The fourth thing is it's scalable if you want it to be. Because the industry is not, based upon art, you don't have to like develop someone's artist eye, if you will. You just teach them the formula and they follow it. And so that's nice when you're first breaking into the industry, right? Because you can just go for it and learn quickly, and you don't have to spend years to develop your eye. But also when you go to scale a team, the same thing applies to them, right? Like, you can train them this stuff relatively quickly, and that's awesome because it allows you to, the goal for a lot of people when they start a real estate media companies, they want to make 5, 10, 15 grand a month, 20 grand, whatever it is, solo. And a lot of times they're like, no, I don't really want to scale, Eli. And the reason I'm bringing this in the video now is because when they start getting to 10, 15, 20K, they're like, Eli, I want to scale, the same people. And so it's just because you don't want to do that now doesn't mean you won't want to in the future. And the good news is you don't have to change things now to be able to scale in the future. You just get yourself as busy as you want solo, and when you decide, you can relatively easily scale because it's an easier skill to learn. And then the fifth thing is it's relatively easy to break into the industry. A lot of people will talk about saturated markets and competition and all that stuff, but there's 2 things I think are really important. Number one, and I mean this as respectfully as possible, but maybe with like a slight disrespect, is if you could compete, if you could pick, like if you were just starting a business and you had a drop-down menu that said who your people competing with, like who would you be competing with, you would pick photographers. Like, they're just not known for having great business strategy, right? That's why there's so many broke photographers. And so, like, if you could pick, do I want to compete with tech people? Do I want to compete with photographers? Do I want to compete with whatever? Like, you would literally pick photographers. So from a saturation standpoint, sure, there's a lot of photographers, but they're not generally the most sophisticated from a business standpoint, so it makes it really easy to compete with. And then number 2 is you don't really even compete with them that much. Like, there's so many real estate agents in every market. If you have a city with few hundred thousand, let's say 250,000 people, there's probably well over 1,000 licensed real estate agents in that area. And 100 real estate agents will pretty much always give you a 6-figure a year or more business. So it's just cool that, from the competition perspective, it's like pretty easy to break into the industry because competition is not super sophisticated. And most importantly, because there's so much business to go around, especially with that average order value increase that I talked about earlier in the video. When I first started, it was like basically just photos, and occasionally you'd get a video ordered, and then it became like photos and drone, on many listings, and floor plans got added in, 3D tours and video. And so not only are more agents using real estate photographers now, but they used to spend this much, and now they spend this much at every listing. So even if you just did the same number of shoots every year, you're now making more money because they're spending more with you on each listing. And so I think that's something that makes a big difference when you're trying to break into the industry, especially now in 2025. The bigger picture thing that I just wanted to share is like, don't overcomplicate any of this. Don't watch the trends too hard. Don't overdo how much time you're spending on your workflow and how you're shooting real estate photos. Like, just do what the bare minimum that is required to do to start getting clients, and then that's going to teach you so much. Ultimately, this is a very, very simple industry if you let it be, and it can be very, very complicated if you let it be. And so, go back to first principles. Think about, if I was a real estate agent, what would I want? Design your business that way, and don't let the competition scare you, and the trends and the change and all that stuff scare you from just taking action, because so much more than has changed has remained the same over the last 10 years. So there's a roadmap to follow. And speaking of roadmap, if you'd like us to walk you through literally a checklisted process of how to start up a real estate media business, and have a coach on our team that works with you through that process, and just get access to our awesome community, there's a link below where you can grab a time to talk with my team specifically about your market and what coaching would look like for you. We've made this in as much to a science as possible, and so we'd love to help you walk through that process, help you launch your real estate media business or take it to the next level. So you'll find that below, and keep sticking with the basics. See you in the next video.